A building was hit by a lightning bolt. A flash of what looked to be fire and sparks shot down the side of the building and struck the ground. Typhoon Hagupit brought heavy rains and strong winds to China's eastern coastal areas, causing big waves and floods. In Hong Kong, Chinese soldiers sang "Anyone who dares to make waves, we will destroy him on the spot" to celebrate Army Day. News of a Chinese woman in Japan going back to China for a heart transplant has attracted media attention in both countries. That's because the Chinese hospital found 3 different hearts for her in a mere 10 days. And Microsoft is in talks to buy part of TikTok, but an expert questions if the app will be any safer under the new ownership. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. A rare scene in a Chinese city has shocked locals. On Monday night, a residential high-rise building in the northeastern city of Xinyang was hit by a huge lightning bolt. Immediately after, a flash of what looked to be fire and sparks shot down the side of the building and struck the ground, sending sparks flying. Another citizen captured the scene from a different angle and posted it online. A local told us the building was newly built and wasn't damaged.
The building was not damaged at all. The strike hit the ground very bright and super loud. At around 7 o'clock on the 3rd, it was raining heavily in Shenyang, extremely heavy rain with thunder.
Local media reports say no one was injured. They explain that the lightning struck high-voltage wires and ignited weeds on the front lawn. They added that the wires were not damaged and are still functioning. A netizen commented on Chinese social media platform Weibo, calling this year a year of life-threatening danger, urging everyone to pay attention to safety. Rainstorms continue to fall in the city. The local meteorological agency has issued an amber thunderstorm warning overnight, expecting strong winds and possible hail. Elsewhere, floods, typhoon, virus, drought, and locusts are battering different parts of China. Typhoon Hagupit brought heavy rains and strong winds to China's eastern coastal areas in Zhejiang province after it made landfall on Monday night. Winds blew up to 85 miles per hour at its center. It was moving north at 15 miles per hour in the direction of Shanghai. A red warning was issued. Big waves hit the coast, water pouring down from the sky. The wind blowing forcefully. Trees are uprooted where the typhoon passes. Lightning strikes. Streets are submerged underwater. In a video, streets can be seen covered with water. The motor vehicles are half submerged in the flood. They move in the water like boats, and people wade through the water. Now we turn to China's food supply. A new rule has sparked questions about the quality of the country's grain storage, as have some recently released videos. They're all from the northeast inside what's called China's granary. Last week, a local unit of the country's grain reserves cooperative banned all photography devices from its granaries. The rule was imposed in Heilongjiang province, one of China's most important grain-producing regions. The ban followed the release of a video online which was shot in mid-July. It showed a pile of corn from a stockpile house in another city in that same province. The grain was partly moldy and mixed with dirt and other foreign matter. Turning to Liaoning, another northeastern province, China's Ministry of Water Resources said that for June and July, the average rainfall there was only 4 inches. That's half of the normal level recorded from previous years. It's also the lowest rain level recorded within the past 70 years. The affected crops cover about 3 million acres of farmland. According to local media, in one of the province's grain fields, the scorching sun drained the water from the plants. The leaves are reportedly so dry that they easily break apart in locals' hands. Other areas hit by the drought include the southern province of Guangxi, the northwestern Xinjiang region, and northern Inner Mongolia region. Now we take a look at Wuhan. The CCP virus has returned to Wuhan. That's what Chinese authorities say. But local residents reveal that it actually never left the city after the first outbreak. Many communities have already been taking precautions even before authorities notify the public about the newly confirmed cases. The Hubei Provincial Health Commission announced that Saturday's 3 new cases of infection are all students studying in Russia. They took a charter flight from Moscow to Wuhan on Friday. Prior to these 3, Hubei province had not reported any other cases for nearly 2 months. If what Chinese authorities said was true, then the virus would have originated from outside China this time. But Ms. Liu, a Wuhan resident, told us that the epidemic has never stopped in her city. But authorities didn't report it, so people didn't know or pay attention.
People had to move on with their lives. Some neighborhoods may have been closed down, but people didn't pay much attention to it and didn't spread the information.
Another Wuhan citizen, Ms. Huang, told us that disinfectants are now being sprayed in all public places. A push for more testing has also been rolled out in many neighborhoods. A video shows that before the new cases were announced, Wuhan residents seem to have forgotten about the epidemic. A video taken on Saturday showed crowds packing a water park in Wuhan. A netizen speculated that China's internet censorship likely prevented people in China from knowing about the real outbreak situation. So as a result, they don't realize its significance. He added that it's crucial to pull down China's internet firewall in order to show people the truth. A Chinese woman in Japan went back to China for a heart transplant this June. But reports about her inquiry has sparked questions and concern surrounding China's controversial organ transplant market.
News of a Chinese woman's heart transplant has caught the media's attention. The woman, who now lives in Japan, returned to China for the procedure. The Chinese embassy in Japan touted the cross-border transplant as a renewal of the two countries' friendship. State media People's Daily, as well as other Chinese media, also put out lengthy reports of the successful transplant. They say the patient is currently lying peacefully in a Chinese hospital bed and enjoying the warmth of her motherland. But details of the operation have raised questions, given China's controversial organ transplant industry. According to the People's Daily's report, the 24-year-old patient, who uses the pseudonym Ling Ling, took a chartered flight to China, arranged by the local Chinese embassy. The plane was adjusted specifically to fit her medical equipment. And within 10 days, Yuning Hospital in Wuhan City was able to find 3 hearts that were ready to be transplanted to Ling Ling. The report shows that on June 16th, 4 days after Ling Ling arrived in Wuhan, the hospital found a heart for her. But eventually that heart was abandoned because the donor's coronary artery was not high enough quality. The media report did not say where the heart came from. Just 3 days later, on June 19th, the hospital found a second heart for Ling Ling. This heart's quality was good enough, but Chinese doctors gave up once again. That's because Ling Ling had a fever at the time, preventing her from being stable enough for surgery. The report said the second heart came from Hunan province, but again did not name the donor. Finally, on June 25th, Chinese doctors found a third heart and successfully performed Ling Ling's transplant. The heart is said to have come from an unnamed 33-year-old accident victim from Guangzhou. The cross-border transplant was also widely covered in Japan. Japanese station Fuji TV produced a 20-minute program documenting the entire process. It highlighted the patient's happiness at being able to return to China to receive treatment. The Japanese program also noted that in Japan, patients usually wait for over 3 years to receive a heart transplant, yet in China, the wait time is only 1 to 2 months. Earlier this month, some of Japan's medical journalists and human rights activists questioned the program in a press conference. They said it ignored the background of China's ongoing forced organ harvesting against Falun Gong practitioners and Uyghur Muslims.
In this transplant surgery, where does the organ donation come from? They didn't mention it at all. Chunichi Shimbun, Fuji TV, and others just ignored the background.
Japan's non-profit Stop Medical Genocide organization sent a petition letter to Fuji TV's president. The letter argued that Japan has over 14,000 people on its transplant list who are painfully waiting for their chance. The letter said, "How would these critically ill patients and their families feel about watching this show? I want to go to China and undergo transplantation. Isn't it inevitable for them to think this way?" According to a report by Chinese state media last April, Wuhan City plays a leading role in China's transplant industry. Inside one hospital, Tongji, there's at least one organ transplant done every day. And in the Union Hospital where Lining stayed, a heart transplant surgery is performed every 2 or 3 days. Penny Zhou, NTD News.
Now to Hong Kong. A video of the People's Liberation Army, or PLA, has gone viral. They performed a singing dancing piece called "I Am a Bullet." One line goes, "Anyone who dares to make waves, we will destroy him on the spot." This is part of the celebration of Army Memorial Day of the PLA on August 1st. The PLA in Hong Kong released this video one day before the Memorial Day. Chinese state-run media outlets praised this performance, showing the masculinity of Chinese soldiers. The articles referred to the new national security law in Hong Kong, saying these soldiers would show the military training of sea, land, and air forces. In the lyrics, there's another sentence, "I am a bullet, I am also glorious, even when I am broken to pieces." A netizen wrote, "You are a bullet and the normal people are your target. You are the bullet that kills the normal people at this moment and the cannon fodder of the Chinese regime's next moment." The CCP has been using more sophisticated technology and putting more money in surveillance. This brings the CCP surveillance state to the next level.
The CCP surveillance has expanded into monitoring users' offline conversations. The Chinese version of popular video sharing app TikTok, called Douyin, has again been accused by some users of doing the same. But it's not the only one. One user, Miss Yang, told Radio Free Asia about something strange she noticed while using TikTok and Chinese shopping app Taobao. She noticed the Taobao app, the largest online shopping platform in China, has push notifications for items she's mentioned while talking in person with coworkers. That's despite her not making related searches for similar items online or mentioning them during phone conversations. Professionals say it's a common practice among apps made in China. According to Mr. Jin, a former data engineer for Huawei, Chinese apps are certainly able to record information without users even running the apps. Taobao and WeChat are suspected of storing personal data from Ms. Yang and readily sharing it with the regime. Early in 2017, an internal document from the CCP Stability Maintenance Department stated that video monitoring can be extended to people's homes or through mobile phone software. The policy was put in place to refine Project Dazzling Snow, a nationwide project envisioned to create full geographic coverage, full network sharing, full-time coverage, and full operational control. CCP has invested huge amounts of money in the initiative. NTD's sister media, the Epoch Times, obtained an internal document detailing municipal-level project budgets, specifically for Anhui Province. The document revealed that the region's major city of Wuhu has already invested an amount equaling 1/5 of its annual education budget and 1/3 of its annual medical care expenses. Another common method used by the party in order to secure its control over all individuals is to divide areas into grids and monitor them accordingly. A city in the southern end of Anhui Province even takes it one step further. Authorities there set up a CCP branch inside each grid section to ensure the effectiveness of its big brother control. Still, another city inside Anhui is also involved, called Bengbu. It's home to nearly 4 million people. That city alone uses around $12 million from its budgets every year to find the grid sensor workers. That's to guarantee at least one person is assigned to each surveillance grid section. Reporting by Xu Wenhui, NTD News.
South Korean electronics company Samsung announced over the weekend it would close its computer factory in China. Samsung used to be one of the multinational companies with a close relationship with China. But over the last 3 years, it has accelerated the closure of its factories in China. Its factories for printers, communication equipment, and electronic equipment for cars, as well as 2 for mobile phone productions, have been closed so far. Only 2 businesses from Samsung are left in China, one for electronics liquid crystal display technology and one for flash memory chips. Instead, Samsung is expanding to Southeast Asian countries and India. The smartphone production was transferred to Vietnam last year. This year, Samsung will invest $220 million in Vietnam to build a research and development center to develop artificial intelligence and 5G. In India, Samsung's smartphone market share has increased to more than 1/4 in the second quarter. A new report says hundreds of millions of dollars from the Paycheck Protection Program went to Chinese companies. Some support the Chinese military and are considered to be a national security threat, or are media outlets controlled by the Chinese Communist Party.
A new report by Horizon Advisory says that $192 million to $419 million in Paycheck Protection Program loans, or PPP, were given to over 125 Chinese-owned or invested companies in the U.S. The report says loans went to affiliates of 3 Chinese companies featured on the Pentagon list of businesses owned or controlled by the Chinese military. 6 recipients were affiliated with state-owned companies that supply arms to China's People's Liberation Army. A robotics and AI company got $1 million to $2 million in loans, yet its parent company was added to the trade blacklist of the Commerce Department because of ties to the Chinese military. A branch of the pro-Beijing media outlet Phoenix TV also received loans. Although the company is private, a 2019 report says Phoenix TV is fully controlled by the Chinese government. The new report adds, although their participation saved US-based jobs, it likely came at the expense of other small US businesses. PPP loans were introduced to help businesses pay its staff and bills during the CCP virus pandemic. About $517 billion have been issued under the program so far. Congress and the Trump administration are currently negotiating a second stimulus package that is likely to include more PPP funding. A Senate Republican proposed that the stimulus bill disqualify China-connected entities from the loan program.
And now more reports on Chinese influence in American universities. A report by the Washington Free Beacon found the University of Pennsylvania recently received $3 million from a Hong Kong shell company with ties to a Chinese businessman. The report found that the money came from the Nice Famous Corporation Limited back in 2019. The company is owned by Chinese national Xu Xueqing, who has ties to the Chinese Communist Party. The Free Beacon discovered that the corporation's listed address appears to belong to a different firm called Double Ridge Development Limited. UPenn spokesman Stephen McCarthy told the Free Beacon the donation came from a different Chinese national named Xing Zhou. The Free Beacon could find no such connection between Zhou and the Nice Famous Corporation Limited. Ben Freeman, director of the Foreign Influence Transparency Initiative at the Center for International Policy, told the Free Beacon what's most concerning about China is that they're trying to garner influence on American universities to gain access to our leading scholars and our intellectual knowledge. UPenn has reportedly seen a spike in donations from China in recent years. According to the report, the UPenn received over $60 million from China between March 2017 and the end of 2019. Australia's University of New South Wales is facing backlash after it deleted a Twitter post critical of Beijing's national security law in Hong Kong. According to the Sydney Herald Morning, the university raised concerns about the erosion of human rights in the Chinese territory over the weekend. UNSW was then overwhelmed with emails and social media posts from Chinese nationals who said the posts were offensive. A quarter of UNSW's student body is composed of Chinese students. Under pressure, the university deleted the tweet. It said the posts were not in line with its policies and the views of an academic were being misconstrued as representing the university. The tweet had quoted UNSW adjunct lecturer and Human Rights Watch Australia director Elaine Pearson. Specifically, her article titled "China Needs International Pressure to End Hong Kong Wrongs." In the article, Pearson urged governments around the world to stand up to the Chinese Communist Party for its recent human rights violations in Hong Kong. Following the deletion, Pearson criticized the university, accusing it of caving under pressure. She added on Twitter, safeguarding the human rights of Hong Kong people is not something that should be controversial. Senator James Patterson accused the university of choosing money over academic freedom. Microsoft is trying to buy part of TikTok after President Trump threatened to ban the app because of security concerns. But an expert says the purchase won't clear it of security risks. NTD's Juliet Song reports.
Microsoft is in talks about buying part of TikTok. President Trump said if there's no deal before September 15th, he would ban the app in the U.S. But one of NTD's China experts doesn't think a deal would clear TikTok of its security risks.
I think it's near impossible, as Microsoft can't remove the entire tech operation behind TikTok and develop it themselves from scratch. This is impossible. It will keep using the company's original tech developers, original coding, and many things from the previous company, even operational models.
TikTok, a widely popular video sharing app, has been at the center of the controversy. It's one of the fastest growing video platforms in the world, owned by Chinese company ByteDance. It has more than 80 million monthly users in the U.S. U.S. officials said the app could put user data at the hands of the Chinese Communist Party. Chinese law requires companies to hand over user data if police ask for it. Even with a new deal, questions remain whether it could completely rid the app of security concerns.
As an international company, will Microsoft sell its American users' data to companies backed by the Communist Party?
In 2018, Facebook admitted that it gave Huawei access to some of its user data.
That's a huge scandal. So is it possible that Microsoft will also sell its user data to China?
White House trade advisor Peter Navarro also questions if Microsoft is going to be compromised. He said Microsoft is among the companies that help build China's Great Firewall, the country's vast internet censorship system. Microsoft's search engine, Bing, is one of the few American search engines that's not censored in China. He suggests that Microsoft divest its Chinese holdings if it were to buy the app. Juliet Song, NTD News.
And that's all for today's China in Focus. Thanks for watching and see you tomorrow.